Please stop scrolling for 1 second, please. I started a fantasy and sci-fi podcast with my BFF, Wesley, last March. So I used to pretty much only read classic fiction until my buddy Wes finally talked me into reading my first fantasy novel a few years ago. I loved it so much. So much. We review fantasy and sci-fi books from the perspective of someone that's new to the genre. So I'm about 10 months and 28 fantasy/sci-fi books into my reading journey and wanted to share 3 fantasy books I really liked from 2024. To kick this puppy off, number 1, Stormfront by Jim Butcher, book 1 of the Dresden Files. A hard-nosed, emotionally volatile vigilante wizard protecting the dirty streets of downtown Chicago from dark magic. Sign me up. This was my first experience where mystery meets fantasy, and the main character, Harry Dresden, is kind of like Sherlock Holmes meets Batman, only Harry is more grumpy and downtrodden and sub the tech for a wizard staff. This series really starts to hit its stride with book 2, in my opinion, but overall, I enjoyed this as a palate cleanser between more challenging reads. It's fun, it's lighthearted, it's yummy brain candy. I've currently finished 5 out of the 17 books in this series and will definitely knock a couple more out this year. Coming in at number 2, The Lies of Lck Lamura by Scott Lynch. Wes really twisted my arm into reading this one, but dang, for Lynch's first novel, it really is quite excellent. He played with the prose, demonstrating a fun vocabulary using words like circumspect and avarice, 2 of my fave examples. He built a swashbuckling main character named Locke, who's super easy to root for, classic underdog, physically outranked by every opponent, but has a unique capacity for outwitting his targets with last-second, save-the-day bursts of intelligence and connivery. I love the steal from the rich trope, which you get here, and Lynch imbues Locke with a good conscience despite his love for being a low-down con artist. So I loved that contradiction, and overall, it was a well-constructed story, and Lynch tied up the plot lines nicely. I'm interested enough in Locke's fate to read book 2. Last, but certainly not least, Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. Wow, was this wildly imaginative. Super humorous, lots of sparky, zippy one-liners. Dinniman created a super authentic, creative world and endeared you to the main characters, and somehow he made an apocalypse running rampant with murder and genocide anchored to a Squid Games type plot, lighthearted and, dare I say, kind of silly. And that's hard to pull off.